Hello, good crowd. I am so excited. Today we have with us Julia Jackson. She's the founder of Grounded and also the second generation owner of the Jackson family wines. You don't want to miss this episode. Stick around.
Welcome to the Your Mark on the World show with your champion of social good, Devin D. Thorpe.
Our sponsor, Johnson & Johnson, matches most individual donations up to $250 at caringcrowd.org. Julia, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Devin. Really happy to be here.
We're thrilled to have you. I know you're a friend of Paul Hawken. We had Paul on the show a couple of months back, and Jonathan Foley last month. We're thrilled to have you join us today to talk a little bit more about climate change. I think this has, as important as this is for the world, I think there is a personal connection that you feel to this issue. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so I have a huge amount of respect for Paul Hawken and Drawdown. Drawdown is really a catalyst for me getting even deeper into the environmental movement. I am a huge fan of his book. As a vintner growing up in the wine industry, I think you can say vintners are in tune with the cycle of nature because we depend on it for our crop. So very familiar with regenerative agriculture and the need for climate stability and being able to predict the climate for wine. So I was always sensitive to climate and how it was changing. And then 2017, the wildfires hit my community. In Santa Rosa, it was $9 billion worth of damage. 23 people I know lost their homes. I really witnessed the devastation firsthand. I'd always been an environmental philanthropist, donating to environmental causes, and consciously decided, okay, I'm only going to support the environment if I want to make a difference as a philanthropist. But then after those fires hit, I felt like I wasn't doing enough. And I wanted to do more, be as helpful as I could beyond just being a philanthropist, because I'd started learning and reading a lot more. I read Drawdown, was a huge fan of Paul Hawken's book. Was the first of its kind of 100 different solutions to climate change. And I was like, wow, I'm exposed to so much fear mongering in the news around climate. And I'd gone to a lot of summits that talked about the problem. But I was like, what solutions are we scaling? What are the solutions out there? So I was really, really excited to read Paul's book. And that was for me a turning pivotal moment of realizing I wanted to be part of the solution and helping as many people as I could and learning way more about climate crisis. And I essentially just became a student, learning as much as I could, reading about it. I just finished the book Uninhabitable Earth by David Wallace Wells, which paints a very dire picture. But I do have optimism and hope based upon what I've learned.
Yeah, it's Paul's work is inspiring. The Project Drawdown really makes this seem what it, I think, is, which is a solvable problem. It is a massive, incredibly large existential threat.
Yes,
we can deal with it if we all get serious about it. Now, as a vintner, you work in agriculture. You're in essence a farmer. Tell us a little bit about how you use regenerative agriculture as part of your strategy, both for farming and for climate change.
So regenerative agriculture in general has such huge applications for being able to sequester atmospheric carbon, not just in the wine industry, but in the agricultural space at large. The amount of carbon we could actually sequester through planting cover crops and implementing biochar, which was a solution in Drawdown, are huge. We could essentially sequester 1 trillion tons of carbon, which would be amazing for drawing down atmospheric carbon if scaled up to full capacity with regenerative agriculture. So there's a lot we can do. I think the wine industry, we're the agricultural crop that involves telling a story. It's a very romantic product that we have the ability to really be the leaders for the rest of the agricultural world to follow suit and start implementing regenerative practices that are climate friendly and essentially can sequester carbon. There's so many different things you can do with regenerative agriculture so that you're not actually releasing carbon, you're actually storing it.
Yeah, it is powerful stuff. I think there are a lot of people who are farming at different scales who might be interested to learn, where do they go? How do you start converting your farm, however large or small it may be, to an organic regenerative approach?
I think that farmers really respect farmers. So you want to learn from farmers that have done it successfully. I just finished an amazing movie that everyone should see, a documentary called Biggest Little Farm. And it essentially follows this family and how they decided that they were just going to completely do regenerative agriculture down in Southern California. And it took 7 years to really get the farm acting like its own ecosystem where it paid off. So I think a lot of farmers have fear that if I switch to regenerative agriculture, I'm not going to get the yields. It's way more costly, and it's more a long-term play. What I've learned that will pay for itself, definitely, just not short-term. And being able to empower farmers to make that transition, I think, would be great, so that they realize that this is the right thing to do for your crops and for the planet at large. So, yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about Grounded. You recently held the first, I think it was the first summit at Grounded. Tell us a little bit about that. I know Paul was there and a lot of other prominent people that are in the climate change community, but tell us about it.
So my father always encouraged working outside of the family business, especially when you have a family business, taking that outside knowledge and reapplying it to the family business someday in the future. So I consciously decided that I wanted to work in the climate space and not necessarily take a complete break from the wine industry, but do my own thing and learn outside. So I founded Grounded about 1.5 years ago. Essentially, I founded it after the 2017 wildfires. I wanted to convene as many solutionists as possible, individuals that had solutions to the thawing permafrost, to the melting Arctic, to preserving the Amazon, which is a vital, vital ecosystem for our planet. And then also feature some moonshot solutions that really, you could say, are akin to geoengineering, but are safe for the planet and for human health. So like, we did not feature geoengineering with sulfuric acid aerosols. I know that that's a little controversial, but there are some moonshot solutions, like whether it's carbon capturing technologies, like Climeworks in Switzerland. We were in conversations with them. They wanted to live stream and Grounded, but they didn't this year, but we're in conversations with a lot of carbon capturing technologies. We featured a lot of policymakers and individuals really dedicated to scaling solutions to our current climate crisis. So our first summit went really well. We had Governor Brown. I was really honored to have him open the summit with Paul Hawken. I really wanted to hear from visionary individuals that have been at this for a long time and hear their perspectives and what we can do. How can we help? How can we start scaling? So I wanted to attract people with solutions and investors and policymakers and corporations and just individuals that care and NGOs, and get them all in the room and talk about solutions. Because right now it looks like a pretty dire situation we're in, and I wanted to present people with hope, optimism of what can be done if we really put funding and put our minds to scaling these solutions.
Brilliant, brilliant. And that was your vision. You executed that vision. How do you feel about that first summit that now is behind you? It
was a very heavy lift, but I had an incredible team helping me. We're already planning our 2020 summit, which will take place March 19th and 20th of 2020. Now that it's behind me, my ultimate vision for the summit was to be a conduit and connect people, help these solutions get off the ground faster. How do I connect people? How do I connect the right people? And create this ecosystem where people can connect, and it would transcend the summit, so that ultimately these relationships cultivated at the summit would go beyond just a once a year convening. So I'm excited that some of the solutions have either gotten more funding because of Grounded, or they've met individuals that they wouldn't have naturally interacted with. And that was my ultimate aim, is just to be as helpful as possible and be a connector, and then have these solutionists coming to present and provide them a platform.
Excellent. Well, Julia, as you look back on what you've accomplished so far, what are you most proud of having done?
I really am proud of Grounded and what my team and I put together, because I think it really has offered hope to a lot of people that left the conference that have been in the environmental space for quite a long time, felt really hopeful after leaving Grounded. They hadn't felt that hopeful in a really long time. Like Mickey Sode from ISS said she felt incredibly optimistic after leaving Grounded. And it's not to have naive optimism. We know that there's a huge crisis at hand. But we absolutely must scale solutions. And I have a lot of respect for people in the environmental community like Paul Hawken, who've been at this for a long time. I just want to be as helpful as possible to people like Paul and people that have the solutions, and really capture the public's imagination around these are the solutions that could be implemented to really draw down atmospheric carbon and keep carbon in the ground. Like, there's so many brilliant solutions out there. We just need to start scaling them.
Julie, what's the most important lesson you've learned as you reflect on these 2 years you've spent really going deep on climate change? What's the key takeaway?
Well, there's a quote from Paul Hawken that I really resonate with, which is, diagnosis is not prognosis unless we give up. Do not give up. Continue moving forward. That's the ethos that I embody at Grounded. We can't do this in silos. One thing in general in the environmental community is there's so many great organizations out there, but they're working in silos. So I really want to be part of connecting individuals together to scale up their solutions as quickly as possible. But do not give up and build community around this. Build bridges. We're so polarized right now. And this is a situation where we all have to collaborate and come together, no matter what the divisions are. So I'm optimistic because I believe in human ingenuity, and I believe people can come together. I think we can turn this around. I've met too many amazing people working on solutions to not believe that. But I understand we have a lot of work cut out for us.
Boy, that's true. That's true.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Julia, there were a lot of people in 2017 who were impacted by the wildfires and who read who read Drawdown, right? And they went back to what they were doing. They didn't change their behavior. You have really taken a giant leap forward. Why do you think you felt so personally responsible to do something?
That's a really great question. I guess you can say I felt just this tremendous sense of urgency and felt like I was in a position to do something about it, and that morally I was obligated to do something about it. If I just was resting on my laurels and not doing something, I wouldn't be able to live with myself. And that's just me individually. morally feel a lot of responsibility. And it's pressure I put on myself, but I also really enjoy connecting people and finding solutions and being really helpful in any way I can. I have little nephews and a niece. I want to leave the world in a better place than how I came into it, and I'm concerned about their future. I want to do everything I can, and someday I want to have my own children. I want to feel that when I make that decision, that our world is a safe world for them to grow up in.
Yeah, absolutely. Beautiful thought. Beautiful thought. Well, Julia, what is your superpower?
I'd say I'm pretty intuitive, and I have a very creative side. So I like to play piano and guitar on the side. I guess creativity.
Excellent. Well, Julia, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today. We've really enjoyed the opportunity. We're grateful that you would make the time for us. Before you go, would you take just a minute and tell everyone how they can learn more about Grounded and your summit next spring, and how they can connect with you personally?
Definitely. Grounded, the website is grounded.org.
Great. Well, Julia, thank you so much for being with us today. We wish you every success in the great work you're doing to end climate change.
Thank you so much.
All righty, let's do some good.
At Caring Crowd, we believe everyone has the power to make a difference. Through our crowdfunding platform for community health, we empower passionate people to drive real change. Whether you work for a nonprofit organization, volunteer, or want to get involved for the first time, you can post a campaign on Caring Crowd. Join us, because caring is where change begins.
Thanks for tuning in to the Your Mark on the World show, the Social Impact Podcast. Please subscribe via YouTube, iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, or Spotify.